A lot of interesting things going on with this guy. So let's get right into it. All right. So, talking about Pit today, actually. I'm excited because I've been messing around with Pit. Even late 3.6, I was messing around with Pit. Kind of as a joke character because he, was considered pretty bad. Bottom 10, bottom 15 by most people who understood the game fairly decently. Didn't, he just had a lot of issues in some areas of his kit. He had, the big word of the day is going to be consistency when it comes to Pit and what it was like 3.6 and the lack thereof of consistency, and P plus Pit and what they've done to mitigate that problem, and if not almost remove that problem. I wouldn't say they removed it, but a lot better. And it wasn't much either. They didn't change all that much. They fixed a few hitboxes, sped him up a little bit in some certain ways, and he was able to find his footing. So I want to kind of talk about that today and where he stands, because he's probably one of the more hot topics when it comes to the meta of P plus right now, because there's a lot of characters right now that got changes and no one's quite certain where they stand. People have guesses and people have messed around, but there hasn't been any tournaments, obviously, to get a good grasp of where certain characters stand. There's certain characters that come to mind, but I think the biggest one is Pit, because you actually see some people picking up Pit as of recently. Compared to other characters that may have already had players. Pit really had no representation in 3.6. Basically, nobody played this character. But now you have some players either picking up the character as some kind of secondary or, actually picking up as a main. Frost and Kipcom come to mind. But then you also have guys like Sosa really, really talking up this character, and that gets you thinking, right? So what does Pit do in general? So I want to go over his game plan. So Pit's a pretty well-rounded character. He's pretty quick, got a good dash dance length right here. You can see pretty good dash dance length actually in comparison to some of the other characters we've talked to the last 2 weeks. Really good dash dance, really good speed, good disjoint and range on his normals. He's got multiple jumps, obviously, so that's pretty good. He's got glide, can act out of glide, can also jump out of it. He's got fully directable arrows. Right there you can see I just looped it all the way around. You can just fully direct them. You can have them go up. You can have them go up and around. See, you can kind of direct these things wherever the hell you want. So he's got some weird stuff. He's got tools, right? So what does he do? Well, normally Pit's problem in general, this is, regardless of version 3.6 and in P+, he has this issue where a lot of his moves do well against crouch cancel. It's a very clear weakness that he has in this version, in the past version, and all that stuff. Crouch is pretty good against Pit. Pretty solid. Dash attack only breaks it at pretty high percents. If I just dash attack, which is one I'll be talking about this move later, I could just keep going with this. Talking 60, 70, 79. We're talking it breaks crouch cancel at about 80, and it probably doesn't break ASDI down for a while. Maybe like 100. So, he's got that. That's one of his issues. So he wants to. So he has the tools to play around this, and he has just the overall speed. He can try and whiff punish. He has arrows. He can just wall with arrows. Right, if I could actually aim this down like a good player. Like get a wall with arrows. He can do, drift back aerials like that. He can do cross-ups, if I want to move him. He's got cross-ups. He's got some ways to deal with it, but basically he wants to get you out of CC percent and to a point where he can hit you with the Sheik-esque mix-up of, am I going to dash attack or am I going to grab, right? Because he gets a lot off a grab, actually. So that's kind of the game he wants to play. And until then, he's going to want to kind of hit and run and do a little bit of dodge tactics of just kind of getting your percent up little by little until eventually, he can hit you with this somewhere and start a combo maybe at around, if I put him to, maybe 50. If I put him to around 50, you could see, up smash getting him into a knockdown. At 60, you could see it full launches, and you might be able to get something off that, character weight dependent, right? So that's the kind of way he wants to play. He wants to be able to get your percent up, and then get you to a point where him grabbing you or dash attacking you or some burst option like that is going to 50-50 you. And then once you get to higher percent, if he doesn't get the stock off the edge guard or the pursuing punish, he has the ability to, arrow into popping you up, let's say 120. He has the ability to, arrow you off of standing. And see how that pops him up right there? So if you were to go like this. Oh. Something like that, right? Arrow starts to pop up into stuff. So, that's kind of the game he's going to play with you. He's going to use his speed. He's going to use his decent hitboxes to, wall you out or just get percent on you until CC stops being a problem for him. And then he gets to play his game, right? So, doesn't seem too bad. Actually, a lot of characters share this game plan of, play around CC really hard. And then once they get out of CC, which CC is very strong in this game, once they get out of the CC threat of most characters, then they can, play their game really. So okay, so you go, what was the problem with him before? Well, like I said before, the big word of the day is consistency, right? So, as you can see, he's got this move, he's got up smash, he's got F smash, a lot of multi-hitting moves. So you can see where the problem might be, right? A lot of his moves, for a lack of a better term, just didn't work. Up smash didn't link properly like it does here. You could hold down through the hits and actually fall through the hits of up smash and then punish Pit for hitting you, right? So up smash wasn't really that good. F smash, this move right here, the first hit would actually hit you in a weird trajectory that would make him whiff this second hit. Now they fixed it so that the trajectory is a little bit better, and it more so links into that nice second hit, right? So he's got that as well. And now Nair, they lowered the SDI multiplier, so you are more likely to get follow-ups off that. If I were to get him to 50-ish and then hit him with a fade-in Nair, you can get, something started, right? So those moves have been tuned up, but that's something that he had an issue with, was super bad on consistency, right? He had decent tools. His speed was good. His dash dance was good. But, he had issues with some of these multi-hitting moves where he would just drop things where he should get them, but the moves just wouldn't allow it, and then that would cause some of his other issues. So after that is, his frame data. So they touched up on his frame data a little bit in P+, but before he had some weird issues with his frame data. It seemed like he wanted to be a quick character, but his frame data kind of was just odd. Not the best way of putting that, but it was just a little odd. So, you had, moves like Fair now, feels pretty good now. But, at that point, you didn't know, right? So it was just a little bit too much lag. So it felt a little odd to use. You'd feel like you could act out of it quicker, but you couldn't. It felt a little restricting. Down tilt also felt oddly slow. Now it beat crouch cancel, unlike now where it's just a traditional launcher, but it was a meteor, but it was a little slow and it wasn't great on block. So once again, it felt sluggish on a quick character like Pit. You'd run up and down tilt and it just didn't feel good. It didn't feel right. And that was a common theme among people who played Pit or, played Pit a little bit, was that he just didn't feel very good. He felt like a character that wanted to be quick and glide and use all these jumps and stuff, but some of his moves didn't really seem to fit that very well, right? And Arrow certainly didn't help that in terms of kind of perpetuating a certain type of gameplay. But, and then, last thing would be that he really didn't have any kill power. Like I said before, the smash attacks, up smash and F smash didn't really link well. So a lot of times these weren't really reliable kill options because, for something to be reliable, you need it to be consistent. That's what makes something reliable, is consistency, and that's they almost go hand in hand, right? So if they keep falling out of up smash, or if F smash doesn't seem to link into that second hit, you're not gonna want to go for those in those clutch moments because they might just not work, right? So you got to try something else. So really, all he had was back air and edge guarding. That's all he had, and up B if you were able to get a combo in up B, right? If you're able to do if you're able to get like down throw on bad DI and then a B, right? Because it's got decent kill power, right? So that was really it. He had a throw mix up at the edge where, he's got the mix up of down throw into an aerial, and he's got forward throw, which could be a kill throw with DI out, right? So he had that as a kill option. He had his edge guarding, and then he had stray back air, right? Or somehow a string into up E, right? That was pretty much it for in terms of reliable kill setups. That's pretty much it. And, you know, that, you know, made him even worse. So he was a character with decent neutral, all things considered, good dash dance, good speed, arrows, right? But when he got in on you and used his speed, or tried to get in on you, either one, it just didn't feel, it didn't mesh right. It didn't seem to mesh well with how he felt, right? He felt fast, he felt a little fluid, but then most of his kit felt fluid, I should say. But then he had a few moves that really didn't feel fluid or felt a little odd. So, you know, that was, and then that in turn, not only did that make him a worse character in terms of where he stood in the 3.6 meta, you know, being lower on the tier lists and stuff, but it also made people not really want to play him. You know, there were characters that had this niche, in a sense, you know, the characters that had a good dash dance, good speed, decent disjoint. There were characters that fit that niche that were better. You know, maybe they didn't have multiple jumps, but, you know, they had a lot of the same tools. So people didn't really gravitate towards Pit just for that reason, right? There were more reliable characters that did his job. Now that they've really just touched him up a little bit in P+, which I'll go into right now, he feels like a totally different animal. Even though it's so minuscule, these changes, he just feels so different, and that's why so many people are talking good about Pit and, you know, thinking that he might be a new top 10 character and all that fun stuff, right? So first of the things that they did in P+, which you guys have seen already, is these multi-hit moves, for the most part, work now. It's pretty nice, right? Like, you hit an up smash right here, even on a crouching opponent, right? Even on a crouching opponent, it'll work, right? So if he crouches right here, it still hits, right? Because they added a few hitboxes lower to kind of fix that blind spot, so you can't really crouch under it anymore. You can't just SDI down and then, you know, just, you know, get underneath the hitboxes. You can't do that anymore. He actually gets these to hit now. You can still, you know, CC shield, which is you know, that's counterplay, right? It's fine to have counterplay, but you can't just duck under it or have the hits whiff all of a sudden, right? Even if you anti-air somebody with it. So, you know, there's that. And then obviously Nair being so much more reliable in terms of its hitboxes linking into one another, so that, you know, you don't hit a Nair and then get punished for hitting your Nair, right? You don't get punished for that anymore because they fall out of it randomly. So it felt really odd that someone like Ivysaur gets to have a Nair that almost drags you into itself, and then Pit gets one that feels like you almost fall out of it half the time. So they fixed a lot of that stuff, and that once again helped his consistency. You know, once again making him consistent. And then on top of that, the specifics of that is that, you know, they changed the angle on this F smash on that first hit to allow, and they changed a little bit of the hitbox sizes, I believe, especially on that second hit, so that it didn't whiff, right? And then the F smash or the up smash has this, right? So another thing, big one, this is one that Pit players love, right, is this move right here. Bam, down smash. You know, it doesn't seem too weird, right, if you've never really, you know, if you're new to P+, or you never really saw Pit in 3.6, which I don't freaking blame you, but, you know, this move used to send you straight up. You know, this down smash used to send people straight upward. It used to, you know, pop up, right? It was another launcher, but it didn't kill very often, you know? You know, now it sends at more of a side angle right here where you can secure kills off of it now. You know, you can hit somebody with this, and now you have them in an actual edge guard situation where Pit actually thrives rather than a juggle situation, or, you know, even if that, right? Sometimes, you know, that's not as easy as a traditional edge guard. So he now has a better down smash, way better down smash as well, that allows him to actually set up edge guards a little bit easier, as well as DI trap that his old down smash did not really let him do. On top of that, big one that most people aren't going to notice is the jump squat buff. They gave him one less frame of jump squat, meaning that he is off the ground quicker when you press the jump button, right? He's going to leave the ground a frame sooner, which doesn't seem like much, but with his moves being quick and some of his follow-ups being kind of tight in terms of fitting aerials in, that can actually make the big difference, right? That one frame of jump squat can be all the difference between a follow-up or whiffing the follow-up and having to settle for a tech chase of some kind, right? And it helps with his juggle game as well. And it also just makes him feel so much better, right? You can wave dash a little bit quicker, it feels like. You know, he just feels a lot smoother now, as, you know, kind of a wide consensus is that that change is huge for Pit, right? So after the jump squat is a couple of the other frame data changes, is the key ones being fair and down tilt. So down tilt was changed from a true meteor, which would beat CC at lower percentages than it does now, into a more traditional launcher, but they sped it up, right? They actually sped it up by about 2 or 3 frames. I think it went from frame 9 to frame 7. And then they also sped up the interruptible frame, so now it's interruptible on frame 27 rather than frame 30. So that move has been really buffed to be actually quick, a lot quicker now in terms, and really ups its usage. It doesn't beat CC as hard, but once you get them out of that CC percent, which you're already going to be doing anyway with your other tools, this move shoots up in viability, right? And then off of a ton of your other mix-ups as well, you can hit them with a frame trap, where you hit their shield, and as soon as they try to act out a shield, you hit them with the down tilt. That launches them upwards for a combo. Whereas before, with that 2 extra frames of startup, it may not have hit. And because it's a true launcher, instead of a meteor, it would, if they were to have left the ground on that frame, you'll actually launch them rather than, them being sent straight back into the ground, which could have been counterintuitive depending on the situation. So it makes it, once again, more consistency. So just adding on to that theme, right? And then lastly is the, let me see here. What's the last thing? I think that's it, actually, in terms of all the stuff that has really been changed about Pit. I might be missing something. I don't think so, though. But yeah. So recapping off of everything, right, is that Pit, was and still is a pretty fundamental character. This is true for most of the games he's been in, actually. I think in Ultimate he has the same, shtick about him, right? He's a pretty, not basic, but a pretty fundamentally rewarding character, right? Good movement, good dash dance, rewarding good movement, rewarding good spacing with fast, disjointed, ranged normals, right? And, he's going to have that problem dealing with CC, and it's going to be worse in some matchups than others, but his whole game plan is still going to be based around getting to the point where he can reliably beat CC once he gets them to that percent, and then he can start his real game. He can always get that low percent grab if he finds that opening in neutral to start a tech chase, regardless of CC percent, obviously. But, and then he can lead that into up smash, and then that can go into juggles that at lower percents that he wants. But, if the person's not going to give him that, then he kind of has to do a little bit more, which can just be, just shooting arrows, just spacing with drift back and just walling with these other aerials until eventually he gets to the point where he can beat the CC stuff, beat CC spam. And then once they're out of CC, he's got so many more tools to actually get his punishes and to get his punish game going and to finish off stocks, which he didn't really have before. He's a lot quicker now and has better frame data, so he's going to get more follow-ups that he may not have gotten in the previous version, right? So, going off of that theme, it's just a big improvement, right? He's going to get more punishes. He's going to kill earlier, and not only earlier, more consistently. He's going to get those up smashes that'll actually land and kill you. He's going to get those second hit of F smash that'll actually kill you. He's going to get this down smash, which is way better and has DI traps into it, right? So, all around, he's improved in the rest of the game that he really struggled with in 3.6, and that's going to shoot him up a lot, right? And that's the big thing with Pit, is just the upping that consistency, and you'll hear that from so many of the players that have been playing Pit in the last couple months since P+ dropped, is that's really been the draw, is that they really wanted to play Pit right from the get-go, because he is cool. They really liked what he had, but it was those tiny issues that really kept them away. But now that they've fixed it up, made him feel more like he should, he's going to be a lot more popular, I think, and it obviously is going to shoot him up the tier list a lot. When it comes to my opinion on Pit, honestly, I don't want to say anything. I think it's too soon to say. He has a lot of tools to be effective at higher levels of play, especially. But I think you need more time to get these players into tournament and to allow them to play with this guy, a little bit more in serious matches, because net play and all that stuff's only going to get you so much data, and theory crafting's only going to get you so much data. Then you put him up against, some of the top tiers in bracket. I think that's when you'll start to see the real conclusions kind of come out about where Pitt's going to be. Personally, I would probably have, you know, just in my theory crafted P+ tier list, I'd probably put him around top 15 range. I know Sosa and some other guys have a little bit higher opinions of Pitt, you know, and, you know, they play a lot more Pitt than I do, so, you know, what do I have to say, right? But I just don't think there's enough data to really go off of anything yet. I definitely think he's much better. And to go, you know, he's a bottom 10 character before. Now we're talking top 15, hovering around that number. It's obviously a huge jump. And that all has to do with what I mentioned before about all the big changes that they've, or I should say small changes that they've made to Pitt that have really let him come to life almost, that really make him feel, as Kipcom told me, they really make him feel complete in terms of what he's supposed to do, you know? In terms of what character he's supposed to be and what niche he's supposed to fill, which he couldn't fill before because of the lack of consistency in a lot of his hitboxes and the inconsistency with his speed, you know. So I think that that will wrap it up. Actually, I think that'll wrap up this week's character, you know, meta character discussion, right?